My partner concealed her asexuality from me, and when I asked for a divorce, she refused and even suggested opening our relationship by offering her best friend to me. My partner, who is 29, and I, 34, have been married for 4 years, and up until a year and a half ago, everything seemed perfect. Our marriage began to decline after we experienced a significant drop in sexual intimacy. While we still shared cuddles and deep conversations, she consistently rejected my attempts to take things further than kissing. Communication had never been an issue for us, so I made sure to address the situation early on. We talked openly and made adjustments, both committing to staying in shape and trying new things together. We even sought couples therapy and had our hormone levels tested, which came back normal. Each solution we tried would work temporarily, but soon we found ourselves back to having sex maybe once a month. I asked her multiple times if she was no longer attracted to me, and she denied it each time. I also inquired if I was falling short in any other aspect of our relationship, and she assured me I wasn't. About a month ago, after one of her therapy sessions, she revealed to me that she believes she is asexual, which explained her lack of libido. I was taken aback because we had enjoyed a fulfilling sexual relationship in the early days of our marriage. Learning that she identified as asexual was heartbreaking, especially since everything else in our relationship seemed to be going well. I certainly didn't want to force her into anything, so we had a long discussion about our future together, and I ultimately concluded that divorce was the best option for both of us. However, she immediately rejected the idea, insisting we could figure something out and then changed the subject, leaving me at a loss for words. 3 weeks passed without any intimacy, and I realized I needed to prioritize my mental well-being. I decided to file for divorce and had her served with the papers last week. When I returned home from work, she was going about her day as if nothing was wrong. I asked her if she had signed the papers, and she flatly stated that we were not getting a divorce, then changed the subject again. I found this behavior bewildering, so I confronted her, explaining that I couldn't remain in a marriage without sex. I assured her that I was being fair in the divorce process. She could keep the house we bought together, which we paid for in cash. She contributed 1/3, and I contributed 2/3. I would take on all the debt, which was minimal, and we would split our savings and investments evenly. She could also keep 2 of our 3 paid-off cars. I only wanted to retain my sports car. Thankfully, we didn't have children, and I genuinely wanted her to be comfortable. I was prepared to start over since I had a stable income, but she refused to discuss the divorce. This brings us to 2 days ago. I returned home and went to our bedroom, only to find my partner's friend, who is 27, in our bed, naked. I quickly shut the door, apologized, and went to find my partner. I found her in the kitchen and asked what her friend was doing there. She told me her friend was there for me. It dawned on me that she was suggesting I sleep with her friend instead of her. My partner insisted that I could sleep with her whenever I wanted, and her friend had agreed to it. I was shocked that things had escalated to this point, so I returned to the bedroom and asked her friend to leave. I packed a bag and have been staying in a nearby hotel since that night. My partner, her mother, and her sister have been calling me, but I'm not interested in hearing what they have to say. It feels like a trap, and I just want this situation to be resolved. I'm seeking advice. Could this be some sort of ploy for alimony? We do have a prenup. Should I contact my lawyer and try to expedite the divorce? I feel incredibly uncomfortable with everything that's happening. Edit, we talked last night, and I'll provide an update when I get home from work. Edit 2, here's the update for anyone interested. I'm feeling overwhelmed, so I might not provide another update after this one. My partner came to my hotel last night, and we discussed everything. She finally told me the full truth about what was going on in her mind. A few of you had commented on my last post, and you were right. She has always identified as asexual, and her entire family has known this since she was 16. This is also why her last long-term relationship ended after 3 years. Her partner broke up with her when their sexual intimacy diminished to nothing after the first year. She explained that sex was easier for her at the beginning of a relationship when emotions were high, but she still had to force herself to engage in it. My partner seemed to be stalling, trying to find a way to navigate around the issue of sex, or perhaps gathering the strength to start being intimate with me again. Our conversation ended with us holding each other in bed, crying for a couple of hours. No, we didn't have sex. She pleaded with me to hold off on the divorce and to look for a solution together before leaving my hotel room. Now, I'm sitting here alone, typing this post. I've come to realize that we don't share everything with each other. I appreciate everyone who has reached out to me directly. I'm still trying to respond to all the messages. I'm uncertain about my next steps. One commenter advised me to let my attorney handle everything and to refrain from being intimate with anyone until I have the legal green light. That seems like the best course of action for now. I plan to look for an apartment tomorrow. Another commenter questioned why I was offering her so much in the divorce. They suggested that I should split the marital property equitably and move on, especially if I suspected she was trying to set me up. I understand their concern. I don't want to roll over and let her take everything, as I doubt that would satisfy her or her attorney. A third commenter pointed out that there's no reason a judge wouldn't divide our assets and liabilities 50-50. While I understand the desire to offer her more to encourage her to sign, if she's unwilling, I'll need to tighten my position to gain some leverage. I've always felt she has been wonderful to me otherwise, and I don't want to punish her for discovering her true self. I want her to be comfortable, especially since she doesn't earn nearly as much as I do. I can bounce back without issue, but she'll have to work hard to provide for herself unless she finds another high earner or becomes one herself. A fresh start doesn't scare me at all. Another commenter noted that while my intentions are kind, her recent actions seem manipulative and questionable. They suggested that my kindness might not be warranted given the circumstances. One person speculated that my partner might not be maliciously manipulative but rather terrified of losing me. They suggested that she might be in denial or doing everything she can to keep me from leaving. They pointed out that I described our relationship as perfect except for the lack of sex, so she might see offering me someone else to be intimate with as a way to keep us together. It's a complex situation, and while I agree her actions are inappropriate, I think they stem from fear and love. That doesn't excuse her behavior, but it complicates the narrative. 2 weeks later, I don't think I can link my previous post, so I'll just direct anyone interested to my profile. I've tried to read every comment and message, taking to heart what most of you had to say. I also ask that you please stop messaging me. I can't respond to everyone, and it's becoming overwhelming. After my last update, my partner asked to meet with me about a week later to discuss things. I've been staying at an extended stay hotel since that night with her friend. We met at our house and talked for a few hours. She started with a flood of apologies for her actions, for lying about her sexuality, and for not taking my needs seriously. Before I could respond, she presented me with a signed post-nuptial agreement she had drafted with a lawyer, stating that she didn't want anything, no house, no cars, no savings, nothing. I felt terrible for thinking she was trying to trick me into giving her more money. I asked if she was serious, and she told me to take the post-nup with me and sign it when I was ready. It's still in my backpack. I haven't signed it yet. I told her that I still believed divorce was the best option for both of us, that we both deserved to find someone who matched our needs. She refused and nearly begged me to reconsider. We both ended up crying, and seeing her like that was devastating. I explained that finding other women to sleep with wouldn't work for me. What if I developed feelings for them? What if I got one of them pregnant? Would we expect her to have an abortion? She said we would figure it out as we went along and pleaded for more time to explore other solutions. She set up appointments for sex and hormone therapy and even consulted a sex therapist. I told her it felt like we were going in circles again, but she was adamant and begged me to wait. After more apologies on both sides, we shared a kiss before ending the conversation. I returned to my hotel that night, and a few days later, I tried texting her, but she didn't respond. So, I called her father, as I'm avoiding her mother and sister since they're echoing her sentiments. Her dad informed me that she had moved back home and had been. I think it's important to acknowledge that sometimes, tough decisions need to be made, even if they're painful for everyone involved. It's a difficult situation, but I wish everyone the best moving forward. Looking back, I regret sharing my story online. I think I received too much advice, and I often wonder if I should have just handled everything privately with my family. I don't regret the decisions I made, I just wish I had given myself more time to think things through. The divorce was finalized months ago. We sold our house and one of the cars, and my ex-partner is still living with her parents. I transferred a little over 2/3 of the proceeds from the sale to her account, but the last time I spoke with her father, he mentioned she hadn't touched any of it. I learned that she checked into a mental health clinic, but I don't know how long she stayed or what her current situation is. I changed my phone number, but her dad has emailed me a few times to check in on me over the past year, which breaks my heart because he's a genuinely good man. His ability to navigate both sides of this situation has made everything a bit smoother, even if he didn't warn me about certain things, though I honestly don't think it was his place to do so. He has been a tremendous help. I moved back to my home state to be closer to my family, and I'm considering relocating to another state again, but I'm not sure yet. I feel numb from everything that has happened. I'm not much of a drinker, so I've been smoking a lot of pot and working out to keep my mind occupied. To everyone who didn't receive a response from me, I apologize, there were just too many messages. I did my best to respond to as many as I could handle mentally. I think that's all I have for now. I can't imagine there would be any additional questions, but I'll answer whatever I can. One commenter expressed hope that both my ex and I find lasting happiness, wishing that my ex could find some peace. Another commenter was less sympathetic toward my ex, pointing out that she misled me for years and drew out the situation, taking years of my life while trying to live her version of happiness at my expense. They felt it was unfortunate she was struggling but emphasized that her actions were cruel and selfish. Another commenter asked if I still loved her, suggesting that many men think only about sex and questioning how asexuality could lead to a surprise divorce without discussion. They argued that love doesn't equate to sex and that if I was willing to end the marriage based solely on that, I didn't truly understand love. They suggested that anything I find moving forward would be mere lust. I understand where they're coming from, but I think it's essential to consider what I can live with and without in a relationship. Money, attraction, respect, intimacy, and security are all factors to weigh. What am I comfortable losing in future relationships? Now, shifting to another story, I want to share my experience regarding my parents. I'm a 28-year-old woman, currently 30 weeks pregnant with my first child, and I'm about to move to another state. My mother has a habit of caring for my siblings after they give birth, having done so for my older sister and my brother's wife. I assumed she would do the same for me, but a week ago, she told me she couldn't because it was too far away. We got into a heated argument, and I told her to leave my house. Now, we're not speaking. Before anyone judges me for expecting my mother to care for me, I want to clarify that it's not just about that. I've always felt like the overlooked child in the family. My parents claim to love us all equally, but it's painfully obvious that they care for me a little less than my siblings. I've often wondered if I was adopted, but I know for sure that I'm 100% their biological child. It's always been about my siblings, how they're doing or how my parents are suffering because of them. My achievements are rarely celebrated. My birthdays often go unnoticed, either because my parents forget or they throw together a last-minute celebration that feels more like an afterthought. My high school graduation? They didn't throw a party because they had already spent too much on my brother's college graduation. They promised to make it up to me, but that never happened. They shared wedding expenses for my siblings, but since my husband comes from a well-off family, they didn't feel the need to contribute to our wedding. I've always been the one to listen to my parents vent about their rough days or help my mother because my older siblings were too busy with schoolwork or my younger siblings were too young to help. They often tell me I'm a good daughter, but I'm never the one they brag about to others. I always did everything I could to make my family proud, but it felt like my achievements would always be overshadowed by my siblings. I tried to express my feelings to them multiple times, but each time I was met with harsh scolding, accused of being spoiled. I hated my life until I finally left that house, but I never had the courage to cut ties, always hoping they would change. My mother just proved me wrong. My older sister lives an ocean away, yet my mother found it easy to take a long flight to visit her. But when it came to a 4-hour drive to see me, suddenly it was too much, especially when I was in a new place where I didn't know anyone except my husband. I'm exhausted from feeling like I'm always placed below everyone else. I want to make things right with them before I leave, but once I'm settled in my new home, I plan to cut all contact. I don't have the energy for this anymore. I have my wonderful husband by my side, and I'm ready to build a new family where I'm truly appreciated and loved for who I am. As the third of 5 children, I've often felt like an afterthought. One commenter advised me to tell my parents that I couldn't keep in touch because it was too far away. Another suggested that I should be polite during my visit but minimize contact once I returned home. They pointed out that my mother might want me to beg for her help, but I shouldn't play those games. Instead, I should focus my energy on my husband and build a new support network where we live now. Another commenter recommended putting my family on a strict information diet, staying off social media, and not letting them know when the baby is born or when I go into labor. They suggested I should even ban them from the hospital if necessary and gather evidence of their behavior to share with others if needed. 3 months later, I want to thank everyone for their kind advice. I was genuinely shocked by the number of messages I received, and I appreciate each one. A lot has happened since my last post. I tried to call my parents, but they were blocked, and I couldn't reach them. Determined to find closure, I called my older brother and asked if we could meet to discuss the situation. He refused, berating me for what I had done to our mother and calling me ungrateful. He claimed that my mother was in a lot of stress and pain because of me. I told him it wasn't fair for him to assume I was the villain without understanding my perspective. He knew how they had treated me like their personal chef, maid, and therapist for years, yet they couldn't give me the love and attention I craved. He screamed at me over the phone, calling me a piece of trash for saying that and insisting that our parents treated us all equally. He accused me of being a narcissist who only thought of myself. I tried to explain, but my emotions got the better of me, and I broke down. He hung up on me. I started to question whether I was truly the narcissist my family believed me to be, but my husband helped me through it. Still, the doubt lingered in my mind. A couple of days later, my dad called and asked me to meet at their house. I was hesitant but agreed, hoping we could resolve things. My husband and I went to their house, expecting a calm discussion, but they invited my brother and his wife as well. As soon as we sat down, my dad expressed his disappointment in me, saying things shouldn't have escalated to this point. I agreed, explaining that I had assumed my mother would help me like she did for my sister and brother's wife, but instead, she favored everyone else above me. I shared my feelings about how I had been treated over the years, but they acted as if they didn't care, which hurt deeply. In that moment, I realized I didn't mean anything to them. When my husband was about to speak, I told him not to. Everyone else shared their opinions, essentially blaming me for the situation. My dad then asked if I wanted to say anything to my mom. I told her I was sorry because I didn't want any bad blood between us before closing this chapter of my life. She didn't respond, and my dad suggested we all take some time to cool off and set boundaries. In the following 2 weeks, we packed up and prepared to leave the state. I didn't tell anyone where my new house would be. Once I settled in, I wrote a long message to my family, detailing everything they had done and how I felt. At the end of the message, I informed them that I was cutting contact with my parents and older brother. I changed my phone number and blocked all of my family on social media. You know what? My life has never been this peaceful in a long time.